What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. It's time for my playoff predictions. This will be the final playoff prediction for me as far as predicting who is going to make it into the playoff, because, of course, on Sunday, we'll know who is in conference championships starting Friday, and it's all wrapping up here. So before I get into my predictions, I did want to quickly touch on the 12-team playoff news. I didn't do a whole video on that because I'm sure you've already seen the news and everything. But yes, they will be moving to a 12-team playoff starting in the 2024-25 season. So not next year. Next year will be our final year for a 4-team playoff. And, it works out with the new NCAA football game, the EA Sports college football game, because next year, it's supposed to come out, but they delayed it to 2024. So we will... that first year with the 12-team playoff, we'll also get the new college football video game, which I was just thinking about that. That's pretty neat how that all worked out from a timing standpoint. A lot of changes going to be happening in 2024. The SEC will be moving away from CBS. It's just going to be different. It will be a new era of college football for sure. But I think it's great. I'm a big fan of the 12-team playoff. I've talked about that in the past. I just think it makes so many more games mean more. I mean, like these conference championship games this weekend, the SEC championship, the Big Ten championship, those games don't mean anything. I mean, they really don't. If there was a 12-team playoff, those games would mean a lot. Georgia, Michigan, they'd have to win to get that first round bye. Yeah, I understand if Purdue somehow upset Michigan, would we really want Purdue in the playoff? I understand that side of it, but it is what it is. It won't be perfect. Nothing's perfect. But I'm a big fan, and we will be getting that in 2024. So, again, just one more season with the 4-team playoff. But let's get back to this year. I think the drama, if there is any drama on Sunday, it will be if TCU loses and USC wins. That is where the drama, that's what's going to create the drama. Because if USC wins, they're in. If TCU loses, it's TCU or it's Ohio State. If USC loses, we know Ohio State will be in, or at least I believe I think we know that. I guess you never know with the committee, but it feels like TCU wins, USC, or let's say USC loses, Ohio State's in, TCU's in regardless. But if TCU loses and USC wins, then who gets that fourth and final spot? TCU or Ohio State? If USC and TCU both lose, is there a chance that Alabama could get in there? No, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen unless TCU loses by like 40 or 30. That's not going to even be a conversation, I don't think, with the committee. But and you never know. Never say never. I think Alabama's out of it. I think the TCU loses, and USC also loses. I think TCU is in as the 4 seed. So let's get into my predictions here, and I'll kind of go through my conference championship predictions as we do this video. So one that's not going to affect the playoff, Clemson, North Carolina. I think that'll be a great game. I do think Clemson will win it. Both teams have been playing awful as of late, but I think that defensive front for Clemson will be the difference. They get after the quarterback a little bit in that game and make life pretty tough for Drake May. So I think that Clemson will win that game, but I do think it'll be close. I think it'll be a fairly low-scoring game, like a 24-21 type game, maybe something like that. So I'll go ahead and give you my prediction there in the ACC Championship. Again, that game does not affect the playoff. So let's go now to the 1 seed. I've got the Georgia Bulldogs as the 1 seed. I think they take care of business against LSU. I mean, the game, I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I don't think it will be a down-to-the-wire one-score game. I think Georgia will win by 14, 17 points, somewhere in that range. One of those games where you really never think that they could lose, but they never completely pull away. If LSU's going to have a chance in that game, they're going to have to force some turnovers. Georgia has been turnover prone this year. That's definitely, in my opinion, the formula. If LSU can come up with some of those big plays, maybe a defensive touchdown, whatever, then that's really going to be the only way I think that they have a chance to win this game. So I think Georgia wins. I think they take the 1 seed. Michigan, Purdue. Blake Corum just found out that news that he's done. Man, I hate that. Not for this game, but for the playoff, I really had hoped to see Blake Corum in the lineup for Michigan. Just a special player. I really enjoyed watching him this year. Hate to see him miss the rest of the season. But yeah, we're talking about Michigan, Purdue. Maybe Michigan starts a little slow, a little bit of a hangover from the Ohio State game, but I think they'll take care of business, similar to the SEC championship. They'll win it by 14 to 17 points, and they will roll to that number 2 seed. No reason for Michigan to jump Georgia. That's not going to happen. There's absolutely nothing that would make that make any sense, because Georgia's playing a ranked team, Michigan is not. So that's 1 and 2. As long as they win, they're going to be 1 and 2. Now we go to the 3 seed. This one for me, if we're talking about TCU possibly getting in, if they were to beat Kansas State, they would be the 3 seed. It's a rematch. It's tough to beat a team twice, although I've talked about this in the past. If you look at the history of conference championship games, when there is a rematch, the team that won the first time actually wins the second time more times than not. Not that really, I think you have to look at a game by game basis. I mean, you can't just throw that out there and say, oh, well, they're definitely going to win. But it's just something that I think gets thrown around. Oh, it's hard to beat a team twice. Well, it is hard to beat a team twice, but the numbers would actually be in your favor. Anyways, I think TCU just has too much to play for here. The pressure was on last week, and they really responded against a good Iowa State defense. Kansas State's going to the Sugar Bowl regardless of what happens in this game. So I think that TCU will be focused. They're the team with a lot to play for. They'll be motivated. They'll take this one, and I think TCU wins the Big 12 championship. And I don't want to say something would happen, but would the Big 12 even let Kansas State win this game? I'm not going to say the rest would cheat in this game, but the Big 12 definitely wants TCU to win this game. They want this team in the playoff, absolutely. So I just think they'll find a way to get it done. It'll be a close game, but I'm going to go with TCU. And then we come to the final spot, Ohio State or USC. If USC loses, I believe it'll be Ohio State. If USC wins, I believe they'll be the number 4 seed. Let's talk about the Pac-12 championship. You go back to the first game, what a game that was. But that was a really emotional game for Utah, playing at home, honoring the players that they had lost in the past. And it was just an emotional game. And the teams were just going back and forth, back and forth. And Utah made the plays late, got the 2-point conversion. USC couldn't score there at the end, kind of ran out of time, if I remember correctly. But this USC offense, the way they are playing, I just don't know. I don't know if Utah will be able to stop them with the game on the line. I don't know if they'll be able to stop them. I think USC, kind of like with TCU, they've got so much to play for here in this game. Utah will be ready, but you look at how close that game was the first time, and that was at Utah. This time on a neutral field, a USC team that's been playing really well as of late, a Utah team that has also been playing well, but they've also had a few injuries since that game. I just think that USC, they take care of business. I think they win this game. Not quite as close as the last one, not maybe down to the last second. I'm going to say USC wins it by about 10, and I think the Trojans go to number 4. So I'm not predicting any drama. Again, if USC loses, I do believe, and I think everyone would agree, that Ohio State will be the number 4 seed. So you've got Georgia, USC here in the 1 versus the 4 matchup. And I may change these predictions next week. I haven't put a lot of thought into the games beyond just predicting who's going to make the playoff. But just looking at the matchup here, if there's a defense that can slow down USC, it's Georgia. This will be a good game, I think, but I'm going to go with the Bulldogs. Just too much talent, and their offense will probably have a big day against that USC defense as well. Again, it'll be turnovers. If USC can force some turnovers, which they've been really good at, they could win this game. I think it will be a good one. Michigan, TCU, no Blake Corum. We now know that. So I think that definitely helps TCU. But I think this Michigan team, we saw J.J. McCarthy kind of grow up against Ohio State and show that he can get it done if he needs to. I think that will be the difference in this one. Close game, but I would say Michigan will win that one. And then we get Georgia versus Michigan, a rematch from the semifinals last year. Georgia's not as good as they were last season. I think everyone would agree with that. Michigan is as good, if not better. I think they might be a little bit better than they were last year. And that means that, in my opinion, this game will be much, much closer. But still, we saw Michigan go out and dominate against Ohio State last year. Then they turned around and played Georgia, and the game wasn't even close. I think J.J. McCarthy will be a difference maker for Michigan this year because of his ability to make some big plays through the air, also run the ball when he needs to. That's going to give the Georgia defense a lot more to worry about, and because of that, I think Michigan will actually be able to score a little bit in this game and make it close, but I still just think Georgia's the best team, and I've been picking them now for many, many weeks, and I'm going to stick with that prediction. The Georgia Bulldogs will win it all for a second straight year. Again, it's not an official prediction as far as next week goes once we get the playoff matchups. If these are the matchups, I still might change my mind once I really dig into each game and look into the stats and all the things that I always do. But as of right now, just kind of a quick prediction. I think Georgia over Michigan in the national championship. Give me your predictions down in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports College Football Channel.